Hey everybody, I'm Lycan. Ah, okay. So for this video, I, um, like over the past like few months in the winter or whatever semblance of winter, we had here, I read some like creepy, wintry thriller and I would say like dipping toes into horror um, books. And yeah, so I was gonna kind of do a bit of review on those books. I talked in like my last video for the February wrap up. I did like touch on like a few of these books that I had read, but didn't give like a lot of information because I knew that I was gonna do this video to talk about these. Yeah, so I have my notes here if I can understand my writing. Okay, so first one was One by One by Ruth Ware. I'm pretty sure this was my first Ruth Ware book. Yeah, pretty sure. So definitely some Agatha Christie vibes on this one. And yeah, thriller, a whodunit, isolated setting in this like rustic ski lodge. And yeah, my notes, let's see. Predictable whodunit. Yeah. Uh, I love it when rich people go through a hard time. I loved the rustic ski lodge setting. Snoop, the tech startup. Uh, Boring. And that's what I wrote. Okay. Helpful. So how do I describe this? Okay, so thriller, whodunit, isolated setting in a ski lodge. These folks are there. Um, yeah, so Snoop is like a tech startup. The basic of this business is that you can snoop or you follow people like celebrities and you will listen to the same music that they're currently listening to. And so yeah, that's Snoop. And the like owners or founders of this tech startup along with some of their employees are going on this little business vacation trip to the French Alps, and they're staying in this very like secluded rustic ski lodge. So they're all expecting like working Wi-Fi and lots of opportunities to work on their like business and morale. I don't know, whatever fancy ass rich tech startup people do. So yeah, they are going to this ski lodge. Already they're kind of like bummed out because it's like secluded, isolated. They don't have as much luxuries as they thought they were gonna have. And they get there and very quickly shit starts to hit the fan, right? So one by one person dies. They find them. They're freaking out. They can't leave because they're getting snowed in. They can't really connect to anybody out in the world for help. There was like a what is it called? An avalanche? I don't know. They're stuck. It destroys part of the building. They really can't get out. Like they can go outside, but it's like storming, blizzarding out there. And, you know, they don't have like the most skills on that. Survival in their winter brutality. Yeah, so they go skiing, right? And there's like this really terrifying trail that they can take, but they're told not to take it. And then a medium trail, and then other folks are kind of like, I don't even like skiing. And one of the founders allegedly um, takes the really like challenging, terrifying trail and disappears. And they realize that like she's dead. And they're like, oh no. And so they're trying to figure out what to do. There's obviously a lot of like tension between the two founders. I'm forgetting all the names of all these people because it wasn't like super memorable. I didn't really like any of the characters, to be honest, except maybe like there were two employees at the ski lodge, and both have their own like secrets. Everyone there has like their own secrets. And I did like those two folks. And it was nice to kind of be in their head as they're dealing with these snobby, rich, techie folks. Yeah. Kind of lost my train of thought on that. It, one by one, lady goes flying off a mountain, dead. Did someone push her? Who knows? We're gonna find out, I guess. And then more people start dying, and it's obvious that it's like someone is murdering these people. People are freaking out, pointing fingers, and as this is happening, we're getting snippets of like why these people are upset with each other and what secrets they have, as we're trying to like unearth like, okay, who killed these people and why. So yeah, it felt pretty predictable. I really enjoyed the setting. I really enjoy like isolated setting thrillers. So that was really a fun time. But I wouldn't say like it didn't shock me. Like the end didn't shock me, or it didn't bring, it was just like, basic thriller with some like common thriller tropes of these rich folks. They all have secrets and they're stuck in like having to figure out how to survive while also figure out who is murdering their group. And that's about it. Next, No Exit by Taylor Adams. What did my notes say? I love the setup for this being stuck at a rest stop. Yeah. Yeah, so Darby Thorne is on her way home from college, I think. And she's going home. She's very upset on this like drive as she's like heading towards home because her mom is sick, and Darby is she has a sibling, she has a sister, and the sister is kind of like the perfect daughter, and Darby is kind of like not. And her mom and her have just had a lot of like conflict and unease in their relationship, and she's kind of like grappling with that as she's making this journey like to try to get to her mom, who is in the hospital, and like it's not looking good. So we're in like Darby's head with like these beginning feelings of like grief and regret as she's making her way to her home. And she goes to a rest stop, and I think it's like, yeah, it's like blizzarding. She shows up there. There are 4 other people there at this rest stop, and lo and behold, they get stuck there. And yeah, it's just them mostly through Darby's perspective of, okay, we're stranded here. What are we going to do to like buy the time? Because at first it's not a super, like it is urgent, but they're told like, hey, you got to basically like wait out the storm, stay where you are. And that seems simple enough. But then Darby is out in the parking lot I think she's trying to like use her phone to get in contact with her sister, who her sister is already like at the hospital with her mom. And she can't find a signal. And as she's walking back towards the rest stop, she sees like a van, and through the window, like in the van, she sees a cage, and there's this little girl locked up inside this cage. And that is like, I feel like that happens pretty quickly. So we're like, Darby's traveling, grief, 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 regret, regret. What am I doing with my life? Rest stop. Damn, this blizzard. Oh shit. There's a girl locked up in a cage. And there's only like 4 other folks at this rest stop. So she's like, okay, one of these people like have this van. And so the rest of the story is just Darby navigating like, okay, who is doing this? Like, who has this girl locked up and why? And like, how do I get like free her and get us out of here while there's an active blizzard? Like, we're trapped basically at this rest stop. And I think I had more notes on it. Yeah, so I thought it was like pretty predictable of like who has this kid locked up. And it's not like we're going through this whole story not knowing, and like the climax at the end of the book is like, this is who did it. We find out, I would say, pretty soon into the book, like who has done this. And it's more about this like thrilling, suspenseful, like what is going to happen to Darby and this kid, and how are they going to get out of this situation and survive, more so than like a, whodunit mystery. So with that, it was like predictable of like who's doing this. But also it kept me like on the edge of my seat. Like I couldn't put it down. I wanted to keep reading it. I wanted to know what would happen. And, of course, all these characters like have their own backstory. And I felt like that was done pretty well of finding these connections with folks. And that also kept my attention. There were some icky bits. I'm not gonna say any more than that. Yeah, it was pretty good. Kept my interest. Next up was The Winter People, and I think this is by, I didn't write it down here, but I think it's Jennifer McMahon. Pretty sure. Could be wrong. I'll hopefully, if I messed it up, I'll correct it in my notes. So this was, I think, of the books that I read, this one I liked the most. And something that I really enjoy in books is like 2 timelines. Sometimes I'm not like a big fan if there's like too many characters. I'm not huge into like multiple POV, like when it's like a lot. But this had like 2 timelines, and it does have like 2 perspectives, maybe 3, maybe 4 character perspectives that we're reading from. And yeah, so there's 2 timelines. One is, I think, in like the 1800s on this farmhouse, and it's about Sarah Harrison Shea, who is keeping a diary, and we're like reading these diary entries of her experience on this farm after her daughter is found dead. And so she's grief stricken. She is trying to figure out what happened. And within that, we find out like very early on that Sarah was found dead, murdered, maybe, and they think that the husband killed her. But we're kind of like, is that really what happened? This seems like there's like spooky stuff going on. So that's the one timeline where we're reading these like diary entries. Then the other timeline, more like present day, is, I want to say, Ruthie. And they live in that same farmhouse. And her mom, Alice, disappears. And they've lived like pretty rustically, like they kind of like homeschool. They like the mom doesn't want really them to like use phones or like anything that's gonna like tie them, like find them. So Alice is kind of like seems like a secretive person. And there's these like woods in like on their property that people go into and something happens. And throughout the story, we're kind of like thinking like, are these ghosts? Are people seeing ghosts in these woods? This is where Sarah Harrison Shea died a horrible death, and her daughter was found in the woods, died a horrible death. And yeah, so it's written in this way. It's very well written, and my phone's about to fall right out. And yeah, it's just really well written. I appreciate like all of the perspectives I felt like really added to the story. Sometimes I feel like other like multiple POVs can like muddy the waters of what is trying to be conveyed in a story. But I didn't feel that way. Like I felt like every perspective in there added some element of like grief and desperation and, you know, trying to get to the bottom of like these mysteries of like what, like, is it a haunting? Is it someone like hiding out in the woods and murdering people? Did the husband kill Sarah? Some spooky elements. Isolated like farmhouse in the winter. I liked it. And last one. Where the Dead Wait by Allie Wilkes. So what do my notes say? Atmospheric. The setup of life on an Arctic expedition feels so real and well thought out. Gay suffering, toxic relationships, cannibalism, homophobia, confusing. Yes. Yeah, so this dude, William Day, was on an Arctic expedition. And at the time, like, he wasn't the captain when they started this expedition. But in the process of this expedition, the captain dies. And these folks, like, look to him. William Day becomes, like, the acting captain. And he's in charge of, like, keeping these folks alive. They end up getting off the ship. And, you know, they're running out of food. It's the Arctic. It's freezing. They're trying to survive this. They're trying to figure out what to do to, like, keep going. While also, like, in this desperate state, having some really, like, confusing, muddled thoughts about the experience, hallucinating, or so we think. And, you know, cannibalism. When I borrowed this book, I thought it was gonna be zombies. The cover of the book, which, like, I'll probably be putting up on the screen for a little bit, has this, like, hand coming out of the water, like out of the ice. And so I, borrowed the book, didn't really like read the plot or anything. And yeah, I thought it was going to be zombies. And I think in a way, it's giving us the feeling of zombies by way of like how desperation can create monsters of us. And I I do feel I finished this book being like a real spitfire about it. It was, I think, over 400 pages, and it just felt really repetitive, and so I was pretty annoyed when I finished it. Um but now thinking back on it, I do feel like it was well written, and I think it was confusing on purpose. We are getting William Day's experience. So they like went on this expedition. It was a complete failure, and folks found out that they ate some of their people, and there's speculation that they like murdered this person to eat him, and just accused him of like a fake charge, basically, that he like stole supplies. And so William Day is shamed because he was acting captain and he should have done better. And Jesse Stevens, who's like his first mate, is considered a hero. So I think it's like 17 or 13 years later, Jesse Stevens goes on an expedition to the same space, and his crew disappears. So William Day decides, like, okay, I'm going to save my reputation. I'm going to, what's the word that I'm thinking of? I can't think of it. A redemption arc. We love those. So William Day is like, I gotta go save Jesse Stevens because I love him. And he's terrible, but I love him. And my God. Yeah. So William Day goes on this expedition to do a rescue mission for Jesse Stevens and his crew, and they're going to the same place that they were like abandoned at sea, and their captain died. So this is bringing up all these feelings for William Day, of course, and it comes off as like a haunting. So we're not sure if he's actually seeing ghosts or what. And yeah, it's just, there's so much homophobia. William Day is gay. He's in love with Jesse Stevens. And it's just like a lot of his thoughts are like homophobic, a lot of shame about feeling that way, and like feeling that way towards Jesse Stevens, and blaming Jesse, but also being so obsessed with him and so obsessed with trying to figure out what actually happened on that past expedition where everything went wrong, and just how much shame he has about it, and maybe trying to figure out if like that was like somewhat misguided and Jesse is just been manipulating him. So it's got a lot of action in it, but the way that it's written is so confusing and muddled, and you can't tell, like, oh, I thought this person was already dead. Wait, but you're talking to him? Wait, what? And yeah, I lost my train of thought again, but it just went on for so long. I felt like it could have been shorter, and I think I just wasn't in the mood for like gay suffering. The atmosphere was like, the setting was fantastic. I really believe like what they were going through is just like felt very visceral. Like, wow, they're in it. Um, yeah. I thought maybe I was going to be more of a spitfire on this when I did this video, but I guess thinking back on it now, I don't know. I didn't like it. I read the whole thing, but yeah, that's that. If you want to read about angry, upset, sad gay men out in the out on a big old ship, hiking across snowy mountains, eating each other in not a fun way. Uh, yeah, maybe give it a read. So yeah, that was my like winter creepy books. Um, and I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. Thanks for watching. If you like creepy isolated winter settings in books, maybe like comment like some of your faves because I'm always looking for like isolated settings, winter settings, storms brewing. Folks are like stuck trying to like navigate their lives in these like circumstances of like, well, now I'm in survival mode because I'm stuck here. Uh, yeah, secrets, secrets. Cool. Bye.